Well, no formal charges have been filed against the embattled lawmaker, but they could soon be coming. And meanwhile, Espada is facing a primary challenge from at least 2 and possibly more fellow Democrats. Now the scandal-scarred politician is being shunned by state party officials. Yesterday, we were joined here by Bronx Democratic County Committee Chairman Jeffrey Dinowitz. He received a letter asking him to initiate the process of stripping Espada of his affiliation as a Democrat, putting his position as Senate Majority Leader in jeopardy. Not all Democrats agree he should be ousted, however. My next guest is among them. Assemblyman Michael Benjamin, who is no relation, represents parts of the Bronx. He thinks Espada's fate should be left up to the voters. Assemblyman, thanks very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Now, you actually you share parts of your district with Senator Espada.
I do.
And are you a fan of Senator Espada's? I don't know how you get along with him, actually.
We haven't worked together since he became a senator, but I've known him for about 20 years or so. I've known of his activities.
And you do not think that stripping him of or ousting him from the party is a good idea? Why not?
It's not a good idea, number one, because we're in the middle of a primary season. I think the voters should decide. I think any true Democrat would want voters to decide rather than going through some kind of parliamentary procedure. We could be taken to some sort of a kangaroo court.
Right, and also it didn't work the last time.
It didn't work the last time.
In 2002. The interesting thing is that, and this is the letter that the Senate official, or rather the Democratic official, sent to Dinowitz, and these guys are your allies. We should say Assemblyman Dinowitz, Carl Heastie, who's the chairman of the Bronx Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. You are allied with them.
Yes, I'm actually parliamentarian of the
You are okay.
committee.
So you hold a party position. So actually, effectively, would you sit on this tribunal?
I don't recall what happened in 2002. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
So they basically said that he has shown he is not in sympathy with the party's fundamental principles. What does that mean to you?
To me, it's very vague. We have a number of Democrats who have cross-endorsed. The Senate President, Malcolm Smith, endorsed Mayor Bloomberg.
When he was still a Republican.
When still a Republican.
Right.
And we haven't punished him for that. Carl Kruger actually had a chairmanship under Senate Majority Leader Joe Bruno. We haven't punished him for that. He was a part of this Gang of Four, as they've been calling it. We haven't punished him for that. So selecting Senator Espada, is not a good thing, and it just sort of taints the process. I'd rather us, if the party wants to oust him, then they should support one of his 3 or 4 opponents and work to oust him that way.
But actually, that would also be unusual because parties don't often get involved in primaries. Frequently, you have the party leaders hands off on primaries, and the Senate Democrats sometimes don't always involve themselves in primaries either. So that alone would be something to send a message, and then on top of that, to try and strip him of his party membership is really something else. Do you think that it's being done because, as Assemblyman Dinowitz said yesterday, he thought it would take months if in fact this actually happened? Is it really just a PR stunt?
I kind of thought it was a PR stunt. I think if you look at, I guess, what the state party has been doing since Charlie King has become the executive director, a lot of media-related stunts, in my view, trying to get under the skin of Rick Lazio and other candidates, and I think he may be doing the same thing with Senator Espada. I think all he's doing is creating possibility that Senator Espada could become a martyr. I mean, we have sort of an outlaw culture in America, in the Bronx, where Senator Espada, could be seen as sort of a Jesse James or a Larry Davis, and he's being put upon by the system, and that may attract voters some of us may not want him to have, and why not just defeat him at the polls? If you have strong opinions about him, and you think he's corrupt, you think he's bad for the Bronx, you think he's bad for the Democratic Party, then support other Democrats who would be better. I think that's the course that Charlie King and the Democratic Party should take.
And you live in his district?
No, I don't. I live in the Hassel-Thompson district.
Okay, but actually there's questions as to whether he even lives in the Bronx at all. And that's part of what he's being investigated for. So that's yet another thing. He may yet be indicted on some of these charges.
Right. So that's also vague, too. I mean, there have been a number of cases involving residencies of elected officials. Under the law, persons are allowed to have more than one residence. If he claims a home in his district, the courts will generally, by and large, agree. As long as he pays the bill, it's his place. He can have a home in Mamaroneck, as is alleged, and I think he actually does live there. People have seen him there. There's nothing against the election law that prevents him from living there.
And and actually that's held up in court in the past. I mean, a lot of this stuff has come up over and over again. Even the Soundview stuff with his healthcare network, that is what Andrew Cuomo is going after him for now, has come up before, and he's actually beaten the rap. In the case of Soundview, he had these people who were working for him. They didn't beat the rap, but he did. Now, I just want to be clear, though. Are you a Pedro Espada? Because you're defending him.
I'm not defending him. I'm defending having a fair democratic process, as Assemblyman Dinowitz said last night. It's about doing what's fair. if we were to seek to oust him prior to a primary, it would not ring true. It would not be fair to him. It would have the sense that it's a kangaroo court, just oust him to clear the field. I'd rather prefer that either he be ousted because he doesn't have enough signatures to qualify for the ballot, or he's defeated at the polls in September.
So have you spoken to Assemblyman Dinowitz since we spoke to him last night, and do you know where this is going to go?
No, I just sent him a text, and he said some other members have expressed concerns, as I have, that, this is the wrong process, and that we could turn him into a martyr.
But don't you risk running afoul of Andrew Cuomo? Because I think most people know that the letter coming from the State Democratic Party, which is now under control of Charlie King, he's an ally of Andrew Cuomo. I mean, I think most people assume that Andrew Cuomo at least knew about this or tacitly agrees to this, even though he won't comment on it.
Well, since he hasn't commented and he hasn't put his fingerprints on it, I would tend to believe him that he's not involved in it. And we're not running afoul of our candidate for governor, Andrew Cuomo.
So let's talk, though, about yourself. Now, you actually kind of are unfettered to say whatever it is that you want. You don't have to worry about political retaliation because you're not running for re-election.
Right.
You came in a special election. You replaced actually someone who was lost in a scandal, Gloria Davis.
Correct.
And you came here, and now you've sort of up and decided, sort of out of nowhere, although you had been looking to move on, not to run. Why?
One, I wanted to run for Congress for the 6th Congressional District for the incumbent is Jose Serrano. In order to make that decision, I wanted to make sure I wasn't tied down and make it fair for the Democratic Party in the Bronx to select another candidate for my assembly seat. So I told Chairman Carl Hayes that I wouldn't be running for re-election to the State Assembly, and I announced it again at an event in April. And then as time progressed and my candidacy for Congress wasn't really taking off, I decided not to run for either seat and just retire back to the private sector. Some members aren't used to people who just quit. I'm not indispensable to the process. We are supposed to have a citizen legislature, and I'm a citizen who's now returning to full-time being a citizen. I don't think my interest in government or in politics will subside. I think I'll still be active in New York City and in the Bronx, and I think I still have a lot to contribute towards politics and government.
So what are your parting thoughts